It wasn't a scream that woke me up to the reality of my life. It was a vibration. 11:45 at night. I was still awake finishing a data report for work when my phone lit up with an automated email from the airline. The subject line read, "Legacy Travel's Bora Bora itinerary finalized." I clicked it, assuming it was a mistake or maybe a spam email. But there they were. 4 first-class tickets. Patricia, Robert, Samantha, Tyler, my parents and my siblings. My name was nowhere on the list. I sat there, the blue light of the screen reflecting in my glasses, waiting for the hurt to hit me. But before the pain could arrive, a text message slid down from the top of the screen. It was from my mother, Patricia. It said simply, "Please don't make a scene about this. We just thought the aesthetic wouldn't suit you." Seconds later, my sister Samantha hearted the message. I didn't cry. I didn't type a furious reply. I just stared at the pixelated heart, and I felt the last tether of obligation snap. It didn't feel like a heartbreak. It felt like a contract expiring. It was cold, it was metallic, and it was final. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community. I didn't go to sleep. Instead, I opened my laptop. I didn't open it to plead my case or to look at photos of the Bora Bora villa they had booked without me. I opened it to review the ledger. You see, when you are the excluded child, you become a meticulous archivist of your own erasure. I started pulling up old emails, bank transfers, and calendar invites. I needed to see the full scope of the debt. It wasn't just Bora Bora. That was just the latest line item. I looked back at the Aspen trip 3 years ago. "You don't ski, honey," my dad had said. "You'd just be bored in the lodge." So I stayed home. But looking at my bank statement from that month, I saw a transfer of $500 to my brother Tyler for gear rental. I had paid for the skis I wasn't allowed to use. Then there was the Italian coast. That was a couple's trip my mother had insisted, even though my sister Samantha was single at the time. She went. I stayed. And while they were drinking wine in Positano, I was here driving 40 minutes to their house every day to feed their cats and water their hydrangeas because they didn't trust a pet sitter. I did the math on that labor. 7 days, 2 hours a day plus gas. They hadn't even brought me back a magnet. And Disney, the VIP tour. That one was the most blatant. "We honestly forgot to book your ticket, Haley," my mom had laughed, as if forgetting her eldest daughter was a quirky personality trait. Next time. There was never a next time. For 12 years, I had been the family utility. I was the IT support who fixed their iPhones. I was the free video editor who made Samantha's influencer vlogs look professional. I was the emergency lender who transferred small amounts, 200 here, 500 there, that never seemed to find their way back to my account. I had been the silent investor in their version of a happy family, and my dividend was invisibility. I used to wonder why. I used to lie awake asking myself if I was too boring, too serious, too unlovable. But sitting there in the glow of my monitor, looking at 12 years of zeros next to my name, I finally understood the mechanics of what was happening. It wasn't an accident. It was the scapegoat mechanism. I realized then that in a toxic family system, exclusion isn't a bug, it is a feature. A group like theirs, obsessed with their own image and aesthetic, requires a container for everything they don't want to acknowledge about themselves. They need an outsider to solidify their status as insiders. By keeping me out in the cold, they felt warmer. By calling me difficult or boring, they felt exciting and cohesive. My exclusion was the glue that held their fragile egos together. I wasn't missing from the picture because they forgot me. I was missing because they needed someone to look at the picture and envy them. I was the audience they required to validate their performance. That realization killed the last ounce of guilt I had. I wasn't a daughter to them. I was a prop. And props don't have feelings. Props don't cry. But most importantly, props don't pay for the production. I looked at the aesthetic text one last time. If I didn't fit the aesthetic, then I certainly shouldn't be funding it. I closed the laptop. The sun was coming up and the air in my apartment felt different. It wasn't heavy with sadness anymore. It was light. It was the clean, sterile atmosphere of a bridge that had been burned to the ground. I made a cup of coffee, and I waited for the banks to open. I had some withdrawals to make. 2 days later, the universe intervened. Or rather, my hard work finally paid dividends. I was sitting at my desk, still operating on the mechanical autopilot I'd adopted since the Legacy Travels notification when my boss called me into her office. She handed me an envelope. Inside was a letter detailing my annual performance bonus. The number at the bottom wasn't just good. It was staggering. $40,000. It was the kind of money that changes the trajectory of a year. It was the kind of money that buys options. My old instinct, the one programmed into me by 3 decades of seeking approval, flared up instantly. Call Mom, it whispered. Tell Dad. Show them you have value. Use this money to upgrade their flights or buy them a dinner in Bora Bora. Buy your way back onto the itinerary. For a split second, I almost reached for my phone. I almost dialed my mother's number to beg for inclusion with my checkbook. But then I stopped. My hand hovered over the screen and I remembered the text. You don't fit the aesthetic. I remembered the scapegoat mechanism. I remembered that my money had never bought me love. It had only bought me temporary tolerance. If I used this money on them, I wouldn't be fixing the relationship. I would just be paying the admission fee for another year of humiliation. That's when I thought about the invisible chain of the survivor. It's this concept I'd read about once, how an animal or a person can be chained up for so long that even when the chain is removed, they stay within the radius of their captivity. They wait for permission to leave that never comes. They pace the same small circle because the boundary is no longer physical, it's psychological. I realized I had been pacing that circle for 12 years. The door had been open the whole time. I had my own money. I had my own life. I didn't need them to take me on vacation. I could take myself. But going alone felt like a retreat. I didn't want to retreat. I wanted to reinvest. I scrolled past my parents' contacts and stopped at Aunt Maria, my dad's sister, the woman who always sat next to me at Thanksgiving when everyone else was crowded around Samantha. The woman who had sent me a card for my birthday last year with a $50 bill inside, apologizing that it wasn't more while my parents had forgotten entirely. I called her. She answered on the second ring, sounding tired but warm. Haley? Is everything okay? Hi, Aunt Maria, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. Everything is great. Actually, I have a question. Do you and Uncle David and Emma have any plans for the second week of June? Just work and school, she sighed. Why? I want to take you on a trip, I said. Oh, honey, that's sweet, but we can't afford a trip right now. David's hours got cut and... No, I interrupted gently. I mean, I want to take you. My treat. All of it. Flights, hotel, food, everything. There was a silence on the line. Haley, what are you talking about? I got a bonus at work, Aunt Maria. A big one. And I want to go to Bora Bora. But I don't want to go alone. And I definitely don't want to go with my parents. I want to go with the people who actually make me feel like family. I want to take you. I heard a small gasp. Bora Bora, Haley, that's thousands of dollars. We couldn't possibly accept that. You can, I said, feeling a smile spread across my face for the first time in days. And you will. Because I've already looked at the dates. It's the exact same week my parents are going. And I think it would be really nice if we were there at the same time. Don't you? I didn't tell her the full plan yet. I didn't tell her about the villa. I was looking at the one that cost $35,000 for the week. The one with the glass floors and the private plunge pool. I didn't tell her that while my parents were staying at a perfectly nice resort, we were going to be staying at the resort that people put on their vision boards. I just told her to pack her bags. When she finally agreed, weeping softly into the phone, I felt something heavy lift off my chest. The chain was gone. I wasn't pacing the circle anymore. I was walking out the door. And I wasn't just leaving, I was taking the best people with me. The morning of the trip, the air at the airport terminal felt thin and electric. I met Aunt Maria, Uncle David, and my 8-year-old cousin Emma at the curb. They were dressed in their best travel clothes, Maria in a floral blouse, David in a pressed polo shirt. They looked nervous, clutching their suitcases like they were afraid someone was going to tell them to go home. When I led them past the long winding line for economy check-in and straight toward the first-class counter, David stopped. Haley, he whispered, tugging my sleeve. You made a mistake. This is the priority line. I know, I said, handing our passports to the agent. We're in row 1. The look on their faces, shock, followed by a slow, dawning delight, was worth every penny of the ticket price. As we settled into our pods, sipping pre-flight champagne, I pulled out my phone. I saw an Instagram story from my sister Samantha. It was a video of her and my mother crammed into a middle and window seat in economy. The caption read, Airport vibes, legroom is non-existent but Bora Bora here we come, legacy travels. I watched it twice. Then I put my phone away. I didn't post a picture of my champagne. I didn't post a picture of the lie-flat seats or the hot towels. I didn't need to perform happiness for an audience. I was too busy actually experiencing it. When we landed in Bora Bora, the heat hit us like a warm embrace. The water was a color that didn't look real, a turquoise so bright it vibrated. We took a private boat transfer to the resort. As we pulled up to the dock of the Four Seasons, Emma let out a scream of pure, unfiltered joy. "Look at the water, it's like Gatorade." We were escorted to our villa. It wasn't just a room, it was a compound. 2 bedrooms, a massive living area, and a deck that stretched out over the lagoon with its own infinity pool. When the butler opened the door, Aunt Maria walked in, put her hand over her mouth, and started to cry. "Haley," she sobbed, turning to hug me. I never thought I'd see something like this. I feel like a queen." "You are a queen," I told her, hugging her back. "You deserve this." For 3 days, it was paradise. We swam with sharks. We ate breakfast delivered by canoe. We laughed until our sides hurt. I watched the tension leave Uncle David's shoulders. I watched Emma turn into a water sprite, fearless and free. It was the happiest I had ever seen them. It was the happiest I had ever been. But physics dictates that 2 objects cannot occupy the same space without collision. On the 3rd night, we were at the resort's main restaurant for dinner. It was a sushi place with a glass floor over the water. I had finally posted a single photo, a picture of the sunset from our deck, tagging the resort. No captions, no shade. Just the view. Suddenly, my phone started buzzing on the table. It vibrated once, twice, then a continuous angry hum. I glanced at the screen. A notification from Instagram. A mutual friend from back home had commented on Samantha's latest post. "Wait, isn't Haley there too? I just saw her tag the Four Seasons." "Are you guys meeting up?" The grenade had been thrown. The family group chat, the one I was still technically in, though rarely acknowledged, detonated. "Tyler, are you kidding me? You're here, Patricia. Haley, answer your phone." "Samantha, you tagged the Four Seasons? Do you know how bad that makes us look? We're at the Holiday Inn. People are asking why we aren't together." "Tyler, you took Maria. You took the poor relations to a 5-star resort and left your actual family in a budget hotel. You're a traitor." I watched the messages roll in. They weren't hurt that they missed me. They weren't sad they weren't with me. They were furious that I had something better than them. They were enraged that the aesthetic they valued so much had been usurped by the daughter they discarded. They didn't want my company. They wanted my upgrade. Samantha sent a direct message. "You're embarrassing us. Delete your posts, now." I looked up from my phone. Aunt Maria was laughing at something David had said, her face glowing in the candlelight. Emma was trying to use chopsticks, her brow furrowed in concentration. This was real. This was family. The people buzzing in my pocket were just noise. I didn't delete the post. I took a sip of my wine and I waited for the inevitable escalation. I didn't have to wait long. My phone rang loud and insistent in the quiet restaurant. The screen flashed Dad. I stared at it for a moment. The old Haley, the one chained in the yard, would have panicked. She would have rushed outside, apologized, and tried to smooth things over. But the new Haley, the one sitting on a glass floor above a reef shark, just felt a cold curiosity. I swiped answer and put the phone to my ear. "Hello, Robert," I said. Not Dad. Robert. "Where the hell are you?" he barked. No greeting. No how are you. Just immediate demand. "We are in the lobby of your hotel. Security won't let us pass the gate. Come down here and get us." "I'm having dinner," I said calmly. "I can't come down." "Dinner," he sputtered. "We are your family, Haley. You are humiliating us. Do you know what it looks like? You flaunting this wealth while your mother and sister are stuck in a motel. You need to fix this. Right now." "Fix it how?" I asked, genuinely curious to hear his proposal. "You need to pay for us to upgrade," he said, his voice dropping to that reasonable, authoritative tone he used when he was trying to manipulate me. "There are villas available. You have obviously come into some money. You owe it to the family to share. At the very least, you will host us for dinner at your villa tonight. To save face. People are talking, Haley." "I owe you," I repeated. "I owe you. I raised you," he shouted, abandoning the reasonable tone. "I put a roof over your head. I fed you, you ungrateful." I didn't say anything. I just let the silence stretch, let his words hang there in the humid air, heavy and ugly. Across the table, Aunt Maria had stopped laughing. She was watching me, her eyes narrowing. She had heard the shouting coming from the phone. She knew that voice. She knew that bully. "Give me the phone," she said. It wasn't a request. I handed it to her. "Robert," Maria said, Her voice was low, shaking with a suppressed rage I had never heard from her before. You listened to me. Maria? My dad's voice tinny and confused on the other end. Put Haley back on. This is family business. I am family, Maria snapped. And I am done watching you bleed that girl dry. You say you raised her. You didn't raise her. You tolerated her. You used her. And now, you want her money. You don't know what you're talking about, my dad scoffed. Stay out of it, Maria. You're enjoying my charity right now, aren't you? Charity. Maria stood up. The restaurant went silent. She didn't care. Let's talk about charity, Robert. Let's talk about the Aspen trip. Do you remember that? What, that was years ago. I sent you $2,000 for that trip, Maria said, her voice ringing out clear and sharp. I sent it to you via Venmo. I put Haley's ticket in the memo line. You told me she was struggling with student loans and couldn't afford to go, so I sent you the money to cover her. I wanted her to be with you. I froze. My blood went cold. I looked at Maria, my mouth falling open. And Italy. Maria continued relentless. I sent you $3,000. I cashed out part of my 401k because you said it was a once-in-a-lifetime trip and Haley was too proud to ask for help. I told you to tell her it was a gift from you so she wouldn't feel indebted to me. Maria, stop, my dad hissed. We can talk about this later. No, she said. We are talking about it now. You told me she was too busy to come. You told me she didn't want to go. You told me you put the money in her savings account for a rainy day. Where is it, Robert? Where is the money? The silence on the other end of the line wasn't just quiet. It was a vacuum. It sucked the air out of the room. I looked at my aunt, this woman who lived in a small house and drove a 10-year-old car who had secretly been funding my inclusion for years. And I looked at the phone at the man who had taken that money, my money, her money, and used it to upgrade his own seat to buy better wine to live a lie. He hadn't just excluded me. He had embezzled my existence. Haley is not coming down, Maria said, her voice trembling but final. And if you ever try to contact her again for money, I will go to the police. Do you hear me, Robert? I have the receipts. She hung up the phone and set it gently on the table. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, honey, she whispered. I thought he was keeping it for you. I reached across the table and took her hand. I didn't feel sad. I felt a cold, crystalline clarity. This wasn't a family drama anymore. It was a crime scene. And I was the lead investigator. It's okay, Aunt Maria, I said. You just gave me everything I need. I didn't sleep that night. But I didn't pace the floor either. I sat at the glass desk in the villa staring out at the moonlit lagoon and I worked. The revelation had changed everything. The hurt was gone, replaced by the cold, hard mechanics of justice. My father wasn't just a bad parent, he was a thief. And thieves don't get emotional appeals. They get invoices. I opened my laptop and started building the case. I logged into my Venmo and scrolled back years. There were the requests from my dad: loan for car repair, help with mom's medical bill, short on mortgage. Thousands of dollars I had sent him, thinking I was being a good daughter, thinking I was helping the family stay afloat. I cross-referenced these with the dates Aunt Maria had given me. The pattern was undeniable. Every time Maria sent him money for me, he would wait a week, then ask me for a loan. He was double-dipping. He was taking the money meant for my joy, and then extracting the money from my labor. He was funding his lifestyle on the arbitrage of my exclusion. I pulled up the emails where he had claimed to put money in a savings account for me, emails I had never seen, but which Maria forwarded to me from her phone right there at the dinner table. Don't worry, Maria, it's safe. She'll have a nice nest egg. The lies were in black and white. I drafted the document. It wasn't a letter. It was a formal demand for repayment. To Robert and Patricia from Haley, subject notice of misappropriated funds and outstanding loans. This email serves as a formal accounting of funds stolen and borrowed over the last 5 years. Number 1. Funds contributed by Maria for the benefit of Haley, misappropriated by Robert. Aspen trip $2019 $2,000. Italy trip 2021 $3,000. Disney VIP tour 2022 $1,500. Miscellaneous travel funds 2018 to 2023 $8,500. Subtotal $15,000. Number 2. Personal loans provided by Haley to Robert, currently unpaid. Car repair loan $2021 $200. Medical assistance 2021 $3,000. Mortgage assistance 2022 $3,800. Subtotal $8,000. Total due immediately $23,000. You have 30 days to wire the full amount to the account listed below. If the funds are not received by the due date, I will be filing a police report for theft by deception regarding Maria's contributions and taking you to small claims court for the unpaid loans. I will also be sharing this documentation with the extended family so they understand why I will no longer be attending gatherings. Do not contact me unless it is to confirm the wire transfer. I read it over. It was calm. It was factual. It was lethal. I attached the screenshots of the Venmo transactions and Maria's emails. I hit send. Then I went to social media. I didn't post the invoice. That was for court. But I needed to kill the narrative they were spinning back home. I saw that Samantha had posted a TikTok earlier that day, crying about how her toxic sister had ruined their family vacation by flaunting her wealth and making their mom cry. The comments were already filling up with sympathy for her. I posted a single story. It was a photo of me and Aunt Maria smiling at dinner. The caption was simple. So grateful for the family that doesn't steal from you to fund their first-class lifestyle. Truth comes out in the end. Then I turned off my phone. The next morning the world had tilted. I turned my phone back on to a barrage of notifications, but they weren't attacks, they were questions. Mutual friends, cousins, and even some of Samantha's followers had seen my cryptic post and then seen Aunt Maria's comments on Samantha's TikTok. Maria had gone rogue. She had commented on Samantha's video, "Maybe ask your dad where the $15,000 I sent him for Haley's tickets went." The comment had 3,000 likes. Samantha had deleted the video, but the screenshots were already circulating in the family group chat, the one I wasn't in, but which my cousin Emma, a different Emma, my mom's niece, was forwarding to me. The family narrative was collapsing. The successful parents who could afford luxury trips were being exposed as frauds who stole from their own sister and daughter. I sat on the deck of the villa watching the sharks circle peacefully in the water below. They were honest predators. They didn't pretend to be anything else. I preferred them to the sharks back home. When I finally returned to my apartment, it was quiet. Not the heavy, suffocating quiet of loneliness I used to feel, but the expansive quiet of a sanctuary. I walked through the rooms, touching the surfaces, reclaiming the space. The first thing I did was call a locksmith. He arrived within the hour, and as I watched him replace the deadbolt, I felt a deep physical release. It wasn't just metal and tumblers being changed. It was the access code to my life. My parents had always demanded a key for emergencies, but I realized now that they were the emergency. And I was finally locking them out. Next, I picked up my phone. I didn't hesitate. I went through my contacts and blocked them one by one. Robert, Patricia, Samantha, Tyler. Each tap of the block caller button felt like snipping a wire on a bomb that had been ticking in my pocket for years. I didn't feel guilty. I felt safe. Over the next few weeks, the dust settled, revealing a landscape that looked entirely different. The $23,000 I demanded arrived on the last day of the deadline. There was no note, no apology attached to the wire transfer. Just the money. It was a silent admission of guilt, a transactional surrender. I took it. I put half into my savings and the other half into a new fund I named the Emma Fund for my niece's future, so she would never have to rely on anyone who didn't value her. I thought about the justice of the planter. For so long I had thought of revenge as destruction, burning down the house, salting the earth. But real justice isn't about destruction. It's about reallocation. I had been pouring my water, my fertilizer, my sunlight into a patch of weeds that choked me out. All I had done was redirect that nourishment. I took my resources away from the people who drained me and poured them into the people who grew with me. I looked at the photo on my fridge. It was a print of Emma laughing in the ocean in Bora Bora, her arms thrown wide, completely unself-conscious and joyful. Next to her, Aunt Maria was beaming, looking 10 years younger. That was my harvest. That joy, that freedom, that genuine connection, that was what grew when I finally planted my seeds in fertile soil. I had lost a lineage of legacy travels and hollow aesthetics. I had lost the approval of people who only loved me when I was useful. But I had gained a family. I had gained my dignity. And most of all, I had gained the knowledge that I was the architect of my own life. I wasn't waiting for a ticket anymore. I was flying the plane. Share this story if you've ever had to prune your own family tree to save your peace. You are not alone.